Dobar dan.
Good morning. Welcome to the National EPALE conference named Innovative Approaches to the Development of Skills in organization of the Tempus Foundation. In the name of EPALE Team for Support and Tempus Foundation, I would like to thank you all for coming in such a large number, particularly considering that last year we did not have this conference due to the COVID pandemic. We are talking about the most interesting topics in education, and we will hear from speakers from all over Europe. We have devoted this conference to the adult education, to the educational practices, and the education, combined learning, skills acquiring, and the micro qualification acquirement. We will hear from the speakers from the country and from abroad, and we will have a panel about how to transfer knowledge. We'll talk about adult education, about good practices, methods, experience, and tools, and about the psychology of knowledge transfer. It is important to know that our conference is accredited and that certification will be awarded to all participants. Now let's hear from Ms. Gabriela Grujic, Director of the Office for Dual Education and National Qualification Framework of the Republic of Serbia.
Dobar dan I poštovanje.
Hello, welcome everybody. For the beginning, I would like to correct you. The office is not with the Ministry of Education, but it is with the Office of the Prime Minister. And the reason for that will be explained today. It is because whatever we need to achieve with regard to the quality of our diplomas and qualifications is the reason why the government of Serbia made this decision to integrate this new institution, because all the tasks that we have to perform cannot be done in a department, so we need to respond to the current needs. And we know that many foreign investors opened factories here in Serbia, many of them leaders, global leaders, and German producers of airplane parts, and Rivian in Belgrade, and some other companies as well. So we are fully aware that quality assurance in education improvement needs to be in the focus of the applicable workforce and mobility of a workforce. In this context, it is really important for us that when we are creating new profiles, new university studies, we refer to the research of what is needed by our economy in terms of automation, digitization, green agenda. And if we are doing all this, then we need to take into account applicability and mobility and ensure that it's at the level that is expected from us to ensure sustainable economy, developmental economy. In the beginning, I would like to thank Maria for inviting me to participate in this PALE conference because I believe it is really important that we have integrated dual education and the national qualification framework in the single body, because we cannot discern the difference anymore. It is really important to achieve this and to integrate these skills, attitudes, and knowledge into competencies and have that as an integrated element on the market, not only in Serbia, but in all the countries of Western Balkans, supporting the relevant projects and so on. Our conference is called Innovative Approaches we often say that youth or work capable population needs to be skilled or reskilled, but we do not think much about the environment needed for these developmental elements in every individual. And so we need to have the work environment, modern industry, open doors in industries, Industry 4.0. All this give us the possibility to have the teamwork, to analytical skills, that all those skills, and to develop both through formal and informal education. So methodical approaches that we will develop through our office together with our Office for Qualification Framework with the support of the Ministry of Education will help us put in place a modern methodology that would integrate many different approaches, whether it will be through formal or dual education or otherwise. It is really what is important is that we are empowered, that we have quality assurance, and only like that we can strengthen our country and enable our youth to live the life, because it is the common, the shared desire among everybody here. And I looked at the agenda of today's conference and saw the topic, how do we transfer knowledge? I do methodology, among other things, and I can say that methodology is a live science, and it is a key criterion how to proceed in future. Whatever we have achieved in formal or non-formal education, and how we need to know how to give more energy and ensure that knowledge is transferred, and that youth gets only a start for their future, that they are confident in their knowledge. Thank you. You will hear more from Vesna Biden about this. And I believe that we are all here in the right place. Thank you.
Hvala, gospođo.
Thank you, Ms. Grujić. Now I would like to invite Marija Filipović-Ožegović, Director of the Tempus Foundation, to address the conference. Hello, it is really honor for me to welcome you to this conference. The topic is always interesting. It's development and of the skills, and adult education is really important and interesting to talk about, because we need to say what we think about when we say skills. What is the border of adult education, where it ends? Because every day we learn new skills. We are exposed to that learning. We cannot avoid it. And some of you work with adults, and I believe that your trainees, both in formal and non-formal ways, adopt new knowledge and new skills. And we'll talk about how the methodology can help, how the industry can help, and how the government can help. Maybe we cannot innovate the working classes the way we want, to have a small number of trainees, and maybe we cannot have the best equipment possible, or maybe we cannot travel, and we cannot cover all the travel costs for all the trainees. But what we can do, we can improve the sharing of skills and knowledge, new experience, and we can encourage our learners to be capable of solving the problems, applying all the skills that they have learned in the educational institution, whatever level of the educational system we are talking about, because at all levels people have something to learn. And with regard to the quality of education and methodology, the relevance of education need to be well connected with the demand of the labor market and the investors and their wishes and desires. And we need to say that we have a call for application for the projects, whether small or larger ones. Those are not only the mobility projects. So if you would like to apply, if you would like to acquire certain skills in order to start your own business and be independent, then such an idea can be implemented through Erasmus. And I'm mentioning this because our goal is to when we work with adults, that we prepare them from labor market right away, that they do not need practical training again. So there are university studies which are surprising, but you know, in this regard, with regard to the practical training, but most of them are void of practical training. So you can develop instruments for the support to practical skills, and we are here to support you. I wish you a very successful conference, and I believe that we will improve the transfer of innovative skills today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Filipović-Ožegović, for your address. The initial presentation is on the topic on developing skills for adult learners, to be presented by Professor Hossein Kaygin, who is a professor at the Bartın University Faculty for Education, Turkey. The floor is yours.
Hello everyone, dear participants. First of all, I would like to start my presentation by thanking to EPALE team for inviting me to this very significant event. I am very happy to be here. This is my first time in Serbia, in Belgrade, and I am a very lovely city. As far as I can observe last night, just one night I observed around, and I liked it so much. And as you can see on the page, I am from Bartın University from Turkey, and probably you are hearing for the first time Bartın. Bartın, it is a map of Turkey. Bartın is a city in the Black Sea region in Turkey, northwest Black Sea, that part. It's 3 hours to Ankara and 4 hours to Istanbul. Probably you heard this before, Ankara and Istanbul. And this is my office. Of course, it is not my office, just a joke. This is the education faculty building where my office is, and I work in Bartın University for approximately 15 years, and my field of specialization is lifelong learning and adult education. Actually, I have been working in this field, both in theory and in practice, because I have been directing the Continuing Education Center of the university for 11 years, and I am an academic staff of the Adult Education Department. So I have experience both as a trainer, as a manager, and as an academic staff. But I can say that every day I learn a new thing. That's why I love so much this field, adult education, lifelong learning. This very, very enjoyable field for me. And I remember that I would like to mention about another position for me. I have been serving as the Vice President of Turkish Universities Continuing Education Centers Council for 2 years. Before that, I served as the President of the Council for 3 years. And that council includes 145 universities, continuing education centers in Turkey. Okay, now I would like to start my presentation with a paragraph taken from reports. When you read this paragraph, I just want to ask you, any one of you can remember this paragraph from a report? What is the name of this report? Let's read it together. Every individual must be in a position to keep learning throughout his life. The idea of lifelong education is the keystone of the learning society. The lifelong concept covered all aspects of education, embracing everything in it, with the whole being more than the sum of its parts. There is no such thing as a separate permanent part of education which is not lifelong. In other words, lifelong education is not an educational system, but the principle in which the overall organization of a system is founded and which accordingly underlies the development of each of its component parts. So, any idea? Do you remember? Okay, revisiting skills for adult learners. I chose this title and I started from 1970s. This belongs to the report prepared by the UNESCO Commission led by Edgar Faure, and it is called Faure Report. Learning to be the world of education today and tomorrow. This is the report of International Commission on the Development of Education 1972 UNESCO. And another paragraph now. There is a need to rethink and broaden the notion of lifelong education. Not only must it adapt to change in the nature of work, but it must also constitute a continuous process of forming whole beings, their knowledge and aptitudes, as well as the critical faculty and ability to act. It should enable people to develop awareness of themselves and their environment and encourage them to play their social role and work in the community. Also, this paragraph belongs to a report, but this report was written in 1996. Remember this report? Probably some of you remember. Learning the treasure within. Learning the treasure within. This is known as Delors report, the Treasury within report of the International Commission, again UNESCO, for the 21st century, 1996. And now, after 1996, UNESCO published a new publication, a report again. It was 2001, in 2001, revisiting lifelong learning for the 21st century. Now, I just want you to read this paragraph, and I want to ask you, if I write this paragraph now and tell you I wrote this for the future, would you agree with me? As information and communication technologies permeate our societies and communities, the role of the individual learner is highlighted. 20 years ago, the role of the individual learner. Globalization has produced outcomes and processes which make learning of new skills and competencies of paramount importance. Globalization. Today, it is no longer enough to have the same living and working skills one had 5 years ago. And it is, maybe we can say, it is no longer enough to have the same living and working skills one had 1 year ago today. We have to renew, gain new skills every year, every day maybe. Learning to learn, problem solving, critical understanding, and anticipatory learning. These are only a few of the core skills and competencies needed for all. At a time, here is interesting, when 60% of trades and jobs to be performed in the next 2 decades or so are not yet known. Now we are in 2022. 2 decades has passed. And 20 years ago, they didn't know what trades, what jobs to be performed during these 20 years. Now, can we predict for the next 20 years, for next 2 decades, what trades, what jobs will be performed? We can just maybe predict, but it is much more difficult now to predict. Because of technology, because of globalization, because of new factors, for example, pandemic or political conditions, etc. In many communities, the growing number of migrants means that residents have to discover new ways of relating to people from other cultures. Very interesting. It's at the very beginning of the millennium, and migrations today are one of the most challenging, especially in our country, most challenging issues is migration, migrants, and also how will we integrate migrant people to new culture, to our culture? How will they educate? How will they trained? And in 2006, European Council recommended competences for lifelong learning. You will probably know. You probably know this. Learning to learn, digital competence, social and civic competences, communication in foreign language, cultural awareness and expression, sense of initiative and entrepreneurship, communication in the mother tongue, mathematical competence, and basic competences in science and technology. Today, for me, the most important competency is learning to learn, and also digital competence. We will see. And in 2017, 16, European Commission Joint Research Center. Joint Research Center is also known as Science Hub, European Science Hub, prepared framework for the entrepreneurship competence. Here's sense of initiative and entrepreneurship. They prepared a framework for that competence. And when we look at this competence framework for entrepreneurship, we can see people should be creative, should have vision, should value ideas, and self-awareness and self-efficacy, mobilizing others and mobilizing resources, motivation, perseverance, taking the initiative, planning, management, learning through experience, working with others, coping with ambiguity, uncertainty, risk. I can easily tell you these are the most important skills. But imagine that a person wanna be an entrepreneur, and we tell him you should have these skills. When he looked at the list, probably he will be afraid of being entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is very difficult. How can I be an entrepreneur? Probably he will be scared. So, as adult educators, we should be there to help, to assist people to have those skills. And in 2018, European Council revised recommendation on key competences for lifelong learning, and they changed some of the titles and some of the content. But we cannot say that it changed so much. New titles are literacy, mathematical, science, technology, and engineering, multilingual competency, digital competency, citizenship competency, entrepreneurship competency, cultural awareness and expression, personal, social, and learning to learn. And in 2020, again, Joint Research Center of European Commission published a new framework for learning to learn, personal, social, and learning to learn key competence. And they prepared this together with European Commission Department of Education, Youth and Culture. This is a framework to establish a shared understanding on the personal, social, and learning to learn. They aim to build a meaningful life, cope with complexity, be thriving individuals, responsible social agents, and reflecting lifelong learners. Any keyword now is here, reflective lifelong learners. And LifeCom framework 3, now you see self-regulation, flexibility, well-being, empathy, communication, collaboration, growth mindset, critical thinking, and managing learning. These 9 competencies describe some skills in 3 areas. The personal area is related to growth mindset, critical thinking, and managing learning. Let's see in detail. Let's start with well-being. Pursuit of the life satisfaction, care of physical, mental, and social health, and adoption of a sustainable lifestyle. I just want to ask you, do you have this competence, well-being? Do you have a sustainable lifestyle. Can you say that I have a sustainable lifestyle? I care for my physical health, mental health, and social health. What do you do to protect your physical, mental, and social health? After asking yourself, you will ask another question: how can I help adult learners to protect their physical, mental, and social health and to lead a sustainable life? And flexibility, ability to manage transitions and uncertainty and face challenges. Then at this point, I remember COVID. For myself, I was not very flexible. I had a lot of difficulties at the beginning of the pandemic. I couldn't manage uncertainty at the beginning. But in time, I learned how to cope with uncertainty, how to cope with pandemic situation. And again, in the future, if I face a challenge like pandemic, now I know how to behave. And self-regulation, awareness and management of emotions, thoughts, and behavior. It's not easy to manage your behavior, especially in the workplace. It's not easy, and for adult learners, it is again important to help them, to help of you how to manage their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And empathy, we all know empathy is very much important these days. If we know that we are living in a global world now, in the workplace or in this neighborhood, we live with different people from different cultures, different nations, so we need empathy so much. And communication, first we have to use right communication tools, and then we have to help adult learners to use right communication with each other and with you as well. And collaboration, teamwork, group activity, working in a group activities. The most important point here is, the keywords here, acknowledging and respecting others. Acknowledging and respecting others. And nowadays, we hear or some news in the media about this. People do not respect, some people do not respect, some people do not acknowledge other people, other ethnicities, etc. So, if we want to create a more peaceful world, we have to start with our closest environment. If we are adult trainers, we have to start with our learners. And growth mindset, this tells us, always believe one's potential, others' potential, they can do. First, you have to believe in people, they can do that. If you believe, and if they feel that you believe them, then the most challenging part of the process will be solved, will be done. And critical thinking, this is also very important nowadays because in the social media we face with a lot of disinformation. People should think about manipulative news before accepting it. They should learn what resources to trust, how can they find trustable resources, etc. And the last one is managing learning, the planning, organizing, monitoring, and reviewing of one's own learning. Again, I am asking you, first, can you manage your own learning? Can you plan, or do you plan your own learning? Organize, monitor, at what point I am, at what point I started my learning, now where I am, and where I will go. And at the end of every training you attended, you should evaluate yourself. You should not expect others to evaluate you. First, you should evaluate yourself, and you should help learners to evaluate themselves. And now, another aspect I didn't just include in my presentation, UNESCO and European Commission. I also wanted to add World Economic Forum's views, list of job skills for 2025. Let's see them. Analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility. Again, here we face with the same component. Creativity, originality and initiative, leadership and social influence, reasoning, problem solving and ideation, emotional intelligence, technology design and programming. We can talk about every skill for an hour. We can just finish today by talking all these skills, of course. I just wanted to share the skills with you. For me, the most important here ones for me, critical thinking and analysis, resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility, and reasoning, problem solving and ideation. And World Bank. World Bank's skill recommendation for 21st century labor market. I just want to share the content with you: cognitive skills, socio-emotional skills, technical skills, and digital skills. Socio-emotional skills, again, leadership, teamwork, self-control, grit. Cognitive skills, foundational literacy, basic literacy, and numeracy, creativity, critical thinking, problem solving. Technical skills refers to acquired knowledge, expertise, and interactions needed to perform a specific task, including the mastery of required materials, tools, or technologies. Today, let's see, the last one. The ability to access digital skills, the ability to access, manage, understand, integrate, communicate, evaluate, and create information safely and appropriately. So, to have those skills, of course, we should attain specific educational level. So, we need to collaborate with formal education, of course, and non-formal education to help people to those skills, to help people to have those skills. So, curriculums, the program, educational programs, should be equipped with activities to help students at the very early age, starting from the primary school, to have those skills. Also, by non-formal education, we should find ways to help people to have those skills as well. And this is Life Skills for Europe, LSE Learning Framework. This is an output of project Erasmus Plus project completed in 2018. And they also developed some, recommended some capabilities, numeracy capabilities, literacy capabilities, financial capabilities, civic and democratic capabilities, and personal and interpersonal capabilities, health capabilities, digital capabilities, and environmental capabilities. These are in the center for empowerment of the human being, also empowerment of the society, of course, empowerment of the whole world. And UNESCO, again, in 2016, recommended some transversal competencies: critical innovative thinking, global citizenship, media, information literacy, interpersonal skills like self-discipline, ability to learn independently, flexibility, etc., and interpersonal skills. It's similar to European Joint Research Center's recommendations, in fact. Some skills are repeated here, as you see. And OECD Skills Outlook 2021, Learning for Life, they recommended for adult trainers some skills. For adult trainers, this is different now. How can we help adult learners to have skills? So, they say, if you want to help adult learners to have transversal skills, first you should use interactive learning. Interaction is very important. Interactive learning and constructivist learning. In adult learning, usually we talk about andragogy, but also we shouldn't forget constructivist learning theory. Constructivist learning theory is usually related to, or is considered to be related to pedagogy, but also constructivist theory is very closely linked to adult education. So you should use authentic materials, or you should plan authentic activities. You should not just instruct your trainers. And you need, of course, interaction. And also, you need to facilitate active learning. And also, you should, of course, develop key competences. And real-life applications, reflection are other keywords. Collaborative learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning. It takes time, but just instruct adult learners, just give them information by instructing. They will probably forget in 1 week, in 1 month, but if you arrange them projects, if you arrange them scenarios, problem-based learning, of course it will take your time and effort, but it will work. They will not forget easily. And collaborative learning is here the key word again. They will work together in the project. And another recommendation from World Economic Forum, how to teach all skills to all ages of learners. Encourage play-based learning, break down learning into smaller coordinated pieces, especially for senior learners. Create a safe environment for learning. Develop a growth mindset. Again, growth mindset, they should believe that they can learn. Foster nurturing relationships. Allow time to focus. Foster reflective reasoning and analysis. Offer appropriate praise. Adults also need to be praised. guide the learner's discovery of topics, help learners take advantage of their personality and strengths. You should help them to discover their own potential and provide appropriate challenges, but not shouldn't be very difficult, above their level. Offer engaged caregiving, provide clear learning objectives, use a hands-on approach if possible. Okay, I am taking my time. I have 3 minutes, and I want to share some photos from my city. I hope in the future you may have the chance to visit this city. You will like it. This is Amasra in Barton, and Barton River. Amasra is a historical city, very historical and very nice place. Genoese people lived here in the past, and income and a fall, Gölderesi Fall, Kırcaşile, Barton again, and Güzelcehisar lava columns. You can see such formations in the world, just in California, in Ireland, Scotland, and in Turkey in Barton, just in our city. Lava columns, millions years old, this formation. And Uluyayla, Holy Highland is in English. Uluyayla, that's Barton. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Obrazovanje odraslih i sistem osiguranja kvaliteta.
Adult education and insurance, quality assurance in the Republic of Serbia is the topic that we will hear from Ms. Vesna Fabian from the Ministry of Education of the Republic of Serbia. Hello, everybody. I would like first to welcome you all in the name of the Ministry of Education, to thank you for, although I know that you are all busy awaiting these New Year's holidays, that you have found time to come to see what happens with the education globally in our national context, and to hear about good practices. I believe that it is really good what we have heard from our colleague from Turkey. We have heard the recommendations and the frameworks of different international bodies like UNESCO and World Bank and so on. What we have learned is that the topic of adult education is of critical importance, and that there are so many recommendations, guidelines, methodologies, and so on that have been developed, and each and everybody from its own perspective has suggestions, recommendations, how these global concepts for human development are to be applied in national context, because adult education is of critical importance, and not only in formal education tackles individuals up to 25 years of age, but we are on the labor market longer now, up to our 70s. It's not 65 now that workforce is the age of workforce, but 15 plus for as long as you can endure. So this concept is now present on the labor market, so there are many demands on the labor market in life, and so as the educational system we need to respond to this, to give answers how to implement all these recommendations focused on individuals. how to most successfully respond to the labor market needs and to the needs of the citizenship, the local community, the life in the family. So how to prepare an individual to respond to these requirements of the modern world. For this reason, I decided to present to you some results that we have achieved primarily with regard to the quality assurance in our educational system and within our national qualification framework that ever since 2018 we are supporting and developing. And it is the roof umbrella policy and our potential to create educational policy and implement such policy, focusing on an individual and ensuring the individual's positioning in the labor market and in the educational system. And when we see all this, we are impressed, we all support them, but when it comes to the implementation, then the question is how our school system should look like in order to achieve all this or most of it. And our Ministry of Education, together with all our partners and stakeholders, because you know educational policy is not only in the purview of the Ministry of Education but also of NOX and the ministry also. We know that the cooperation with all the competent ministries is of key importance. So when we develop a strategy, whatever area this strategy focuses on, every national strategy that we have the parts about how to prepare people to work in the sector concerned, and that's what we will do in adult learning. As Ms. Ožengović said, we want to establish a more cohesive link between different ministries in creation of the sector-specific policies, so to prepare the adult education system to prepare to work in these sectors, because we all already underlined that it is really important for the labor market. When we are talking about the quality assurance, you all know, I suppose, how hard it is when we are asked what is the quality insurance system, we would all answer that question differently. So we want to see with all our partners how to create a system that will respect all the umbrella policies, the global policies, and our national strategy. We will all agree that it is really hard to define the quality, but when we see quality, we know that it is quality. It is to determine it in advance, but when we see that in practice, then we know that it is quality. But how to define it in an unambiguous manner, that's a challenge.
Hvala lepo. Samo levo. Aha. Da.
Thank you for your help. So we are still awake. So we can proceed. What is interesting, and that is despite all our efforts, our policies, institutions, bodies, we are still struggling, and this is recognized by all the reports. So our adult education system has problems or challenges, which is now a popular word. We have issues with coverage. A very small percentage of adults participate in adult education or any education system, either formal, non-formal, or any other. In our country, it's 19.8% of the population, whereas the EU average is almost half, 45.2%. The other problem lies in accessibility. The provider network in the territory of Serbia is really, there is a great imbalance. They are mostly concentrated in large cities, and there are only 94 of them. And it's very difficult to implement and even design adult education policies with such few adult education providers. And even when we do have programs offered, it turns out that it's not relevant in terms of the market needs. So that means that education providers do not heed enough what the market needs and how to make their programs relevant both for the market operators and individuals. And then all that, of course, is reflected in the issues with quality. The quality is affected by many problems our entire adult education system is facing. What is also important is, because of the importance of adult education system and the problems we are facing as a system, we have numerous laws, rule books, strategies governing the adult education system. I will not read them out, but those include the legislation in the area of employment, youth, and education. And this is also one of the topic of economic reform program of the government. And these are very high-level documents, and these issues are of high importance. So each of the relevant bodies reports directly to the governments about their outcome, output, and actually the effect of various educational programs. So for each of individual activities that are included in adult education activities, we define standards that should make it possible to ensure quality. These are very important standards for vocational education and training services. And we should all know who is in charge of ensuring that all these pieces of legislation are implemented. First, of course, the Ministry of Education above all, then advisory bodies, for example, the NQF, Council Qualification Agency, and 12 sectoral councils that look at the skills and knowledge needed in the market in their particular sectors. Then we have professional institutions. I would like to point to the Institute for the Improvement of Educations. Then that is important for a prior recognition of prior learning. Then also the Council for Vocational Education and General Education of Adults, and provides and also we have the Institute for Quality Assessment in Education that provides support to the providers. At the level of adult education, we produce annual plans, and these documents define annual priorities. And if we were to list all the documents or pieces of legislation, we see adult education as a service to the market needs, an instrument of actually aligning the demand and supply of workforce, and it is part of the integral system of formal and non-formal learning through this procedure of recognition of prior learning. The practice of adult education has spanned decades, but we have started recently to devote more attention to adult education, particularly in 2018 when we enacted the law on national quality framework of Serbia and all the institutions related. This new law introduced the standards, procedures, and methodologies. We had practice before, but now on the basis of which data, through which procedures, using which tools, and who does what. So we had education policy that used the available data at the time, but this was done occasionally based on available data and motivation. But now when we have the NQF, there are standards, procedures, and methodologies, guidelines prescribed and clearly defined responsibilities and competencies of all actors in the education system. So we now have methodologies for developing progress, counseling, standards for the recognition of prior learning. We also have methodologies for introducing new qualifications, for updating qualifications, who proposes them, who adopts them. The entire system and the entire institutional and normative framework is now specified, which actually additionally ensures quality assurance system implementation. Now we also have the system of validation, actually of recognition of prior learning. So you can acquire qualifications in three ways: through formal, non-formal education, and through the procedure of recognition of prior learning. We know that acquiring knowledge and skills and competencies, or outcomes if you wish, does not only happen in formal education. Schools do not have a monopoly, particularly in the modern world, on knowledge acquisition. So you can acquire knowledge at home, pursuing a hobby, having a job. So the idea is that knowledge and skills, whenever they are acquired, can be recognized, acknowledged, certified to the level that it is possible to continue education on the basis of the document that recognizes prior learning. So the qualifications can be acquired equally through these three avenues: formal, non-formal education, and informal learning. So it is possible to acquire these qualifications through formal education, non-formal education, and through the procedure of recognition of prior learning, so that the documents, the certificates that you are awarded when you complete education, reskilling, upskilling, prior learning recognition, allows the mobility of an individual towards further education which is actually very important, not just to the job market. And because the idea of all our partners is to develop key competencies in adult education through the procedure of recognition of prior learning, because we know that brief educational interventions and these professional competencies and skills, although we do not call them now, but it actually is a big question how much of key competencies you can develop within 3 or 6 months. We have cross-curricular competencies as well, in addition to these 8 that you saw. And in the future, we will work on additional operationalization of key competencies by level of education, which means that for each level of education, for level 1 to level 8, we will have operationalized key competencies expected to be acquired at that particular level of education. And then we can actually add to these key competencies those professional skills, and to award the individual with a certificate that will enable mobility of this individual. This is a big step forward, because adult education will not be viewed as something exclusively connected to the world of work, does not give them the possibility to pursue further education. Now it will be possible either through formal, non-formal education and recognition of prior learning. The individual will be able to prove that they have the knowledge, and we will develop the partial qualification concept. We only now have educational qualifications or full qualifications. When you complete a program, you will gain a qualification level and mobility to the next level of education. But now we recognize that we saw that many countries recognize micro-credentials, and I hope that you are becoming familiar with this concept, or partial qualifications as we called it. So you can actually collect several partial qualifications and then have one full qualification when the time passes. How can you acquire qualification through formal, non-formal education and recognition of prior learning? So if I teach somebody for 3 years and then you will recognize somebody's 3-month course, this is not education. But now within NQF, we have the qualification standards. You know this concept? It says that each qualification, and next year we will have it all done up to level 5, we'll have each qualification standard that will specify competencies, outcomes expected from an individual to have when they complete a certain level of or certain type of education. For example, a carpenter, when we say that somebody has a qualification of a carpenter, no matter how they acquired it, they will need to satisfy these standards. And then we will know what level of the European qualification framework it corresponds to, what the individual that has acquired this qualification can do, when to acquire knowledge and acquire this qualification, and which staff, actually, which professionals can teach them, and what are the trades, what are the professions that you can pursue when you acquire this qualification. So the qualification standard is just like your personal profile, and for all of us, educational experts or parents, it is important instrument for career counseling and guidance. And each and every one of us will be able to become familiar with the qualification and provide counseling to an individual to see whether they are appropriate candidates for acquiring this qualification or not. And the qualification standard allows 3 forms of acquiring the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behavior that you need to have. Then this individual needs to prove that they have them in any of these 3 ways. If through the procedure of recognition applied learning, the individual can prove that they meet all the standards for this qualification, there is no need to refer them to 3 years of education and training to waste their time and resources and tell them it's only the school that can develop these the knowledge and the skills that he already has. This is meaningless.
Stigli smo.
So we are now to talk about the standards in the context of quality assurance system, how to assure the quality, to set the standards, the standard of qualifications, what that is what one needs to know to acquire certain qualification. And when we are talking about adult education, we are primarily talking about the accreditation standards. That is who can provide education for adults to see whether these standards are suitable and whether public ones are given priority or on the private ones. And so I would now like to share with you this information, and you will see that the key requirements for the providing these involvement of these activities are to be categorized in 4 groups: program, personnel, the space, the equipment, and teaching aids. So nothing new, but all these needs to be adjusted to adults. So programs need to be developed in accordance that with the methodology that is adopted, accredited, and what is of key importance is the personnel, the needs, all of us who's involved. So we have the program, we have a space, we have resources, but one of the most important factor, according to all the findings in all research for the quality assurance in adult education, is their personnel. Personnel needs to meet the requirements, the qualification, the work experience, relevant work experience, as well as andragogical competencies to work with adults, to know how an adult learns. And I suppose that we will not only talk about how to learn, but how an adult learns, because not everybody is the same, and everybody and particularly adults learn in a specific manner. So we, in cooperation with the university, with academia, need to define what qualities educational service provider needs to have in order to implement the adult education services. So the Ministry of Education is the relevant institution to determine whether an educator meets the prescribed standards for accreditation. Here in this slide you can see this is a flow chart of the process of accreditation. You can see there are many steps here. So some say that this process is overly complicated, but we believe that everybody needs to go through all these steps in order many independent bodies assess the compliance with the requirements. And what is important is that the purpose of this procedure is to assure the quality for the individual, so that we can assuredly say that all the requirements are here for the qualification to be obtained. Why this is important? Because all the educators are given the possibility of giving accreditations, not only schools, but private educators as well. So everybody has this opportunity to give the qualification, because it is really important for the government, because it changes the status of the individuals, and the accreditation process is of critical importance. But we also have the standards for the recognition of prior learning, and we have 3 or 4 groups here as well. The first is organizational structure for recognition of prior learning. Every school has a team for recognition of prior learning, and we have started to implement this system, but until it's fully developed, this system is entrusted to school, but private providers will also have this once we have the full quality assurance system. And so at this time, the ministry, the agencies, the adult education institution have the experts, have the capacity to implement this procedure, because it is really important, because the recognition of prior learning process is something new, and we learn how to do that with the support of international support. And it's not only schools that need to be entrusted with this task, but private providers as well. So what is of key factors here are the instruments and the personnel, and the andragogical competencies are important, but also the competencies for assessment, for appraisal, for qualification standards is also very important. And that is why we need the instruments, the Education Improvement Institute is of key importance here, to say how to assess, how to appraise the learners' learning outcomes. At this time, the qualification can be obtained at 2, 3, and 5, and not the level 4 and higher education. But we'll see what will happen in future with this. This is the procedure for getting the status of prior learning recognition and the public being accredited provider of education. Special standards for career guidance and counseling. Okay, yeah, I wanted this slide. And this rule book is from 2018. I will not go into details about that. I suppose you all know about that. It's about the concept of career guidance that we want to implement, and the career practitioners are not to decide instead of the individual, but to empower an individual to decide for themselves. I do not have much time left. I'll try to be quick. The second group of standards is also really important: how to measure and how to monitor the quality. Until last year, we did not have these standards, and in the beginning of this year, we have established them. Namely, how schools, publicly recognized providers, can really be assessed the implementation of the outcomes. We are not only making the assessment of the whether the requirements are met for accreditation, but we are monitoring their work later on. We have external evaluation and self-evaluation. This is about the frameworks, about the standard, the quality policy, the standards, how to monitor the quality assurance in the process, the space, the tools, and also we need to see what support is to be given to an individual after he leaves the system, whether an individual is to be provided support within, during the training, or after, when they are on the labor market. Do we monitor their employment, whether they are employed or not, what work positions they occupy, and so on. So we need to measure the effect of our work, and that is why we are now establishing the system that will enable us to do that. You will see on the web portal of the ministry that we have already done something to this end. And now I would like to tell you about the benefits for us for all of this. But now I do not have much time to tell you about this, but we always ask ourselves where we are in all this, what the benefits for us. And what is important is that all of us have the benefits. We can trust in the qualification that we get, that we have the support in the career development, that employers trust our qualifications as well, and all partners can apply to get the budget funds, and also to apply for international funds. So it's not about believing the accreditation and the certification, but being assured that these accreditations and qualifications are valid, that enables mobility to the learners. I have a great experience, and so my knowledge should be recognized, and it's not on the employer to decide about that, but my knowledge and skills needs to be visible, to be internationally recognized. So when I get a new job, I can get to enter the job with one qualification and leave it with another. I would also like to point out this sub-register of publicly recognized adult education providers. We have established our qualification system. We are translating it into English, so it will be internationally accessible, and it will be in alignment with the international ones, and all our qualifications will be visible. And where we are to go in future to develop further, we will measure the success on any projects, including adult education. We will establish a center to take care of further professional development of adults. In the recent period, we had the barrier of devoting time to that. Everybody needed to learn by themselves and to find money to do that, but now these activities are many, the roles are many, and there is a need for different kinds of experts in adult education. We need to know who's implementing the training, in what way, and so on. Now we have defined all of that. We know who's evaluating everything, who's monitoring quality assurance, who's monitoring defects, who's changing the policies, and we have many different roles established, and for all these we need to provide a separate set of information. So we plan in the coming period to have this resource center established to all together create its policy and to support all of us in our efforts. Without further ado, I believe that in future we will have more opportunity to talk about all of this in detail, to introduce all these international policies into our system, to respond to the modern needs of society, the needs of modern society. I believe that I have managed to transfer what I wanted to you. Thank you.
Sada sledi pauza za kafu koja će trajati.
We will have a coffee break, and this conference is accredited, so please leave your personal data there. And if you did not manage to do that in the beginning, do this during the coffee break or the lunch break. Thank you.
Da, za nekako da. Če mi se vidi ovo? Super. Ajde. Hvala vam.
Prvo slušanje se stavlja. Izvolite.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Da li se čuje? Gde me čuješ? 1, 2, 1, 2. Ja dobro, ja ne čujem pošto pričam. Čuješ me u sali? Jel me ima na streamu? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, test, test. Mislim, ja ne čujem sebe. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Test. Sad se čujem neki mikrofon. Hvatati taj mikrofon. 1, 2, 3, test, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ajde. 1, 2, 3. Test. Dobro, čujem se u sat. Ok, to smanji. Jel me čujemo na streamu? To kad pojačaš, jel ide na stream? Ne ide ti na stream. A na glavnom streamu? Ne. A što? 1, 2, 3. Šta ti ide u glavni stream? Pogledaj ovde da ti je AUX. Da ti je AUX obrnut. Pa ne, ostavi ono malo pre što se čulo u mikseti. 1, 2, 3. E sad pogledaj da ti je AUX. Kako ti da šalje? Ne, to je za, rekli smo, to je za stream. Šta ti ide u stream? 1, 2, 3. Jedan, dva, 1, 2, 3. Se čemu sali? Sali je... 1, 2. Dobro, a sad da li pikuje na stream? Ne. Sad da saznamo inpute, da se ne čuje ni sala. Ovo nisam. Evo, ne čujte. To je AUX 3, nije 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. Da li ima sad možete ići? Nema nikakvog postupka. 1, 2.
Četiri, pet, 7, 7, 5. Nemam ga na streamu. Zašto ga nemam na streamu? Imam ga na ovom streamu, ali na ovom streamu ga nemam.
To streamu?
1, 2, 3, test. Šta se tu promenilo? Ništa. Jedan, dva. Pa nema zvuka sad sigurno, kad ti tu ne piku. Pa dobro, engleski ide verovatno direkt iz Tajdena ili nešto, ne znam, nije. Lupam. Jedan, dva. 1, 2. 1, 2, test. 1, 2, test. 1, 2, test.
Jedan, dva, jedan, dva. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, test. Dobro, ima ga sad i tamo. Dobro, to smanji.
7, 5, 5, 1, 2. Ili, jebi ga, ne znam da je 4, 5, 5, 7, 7, 5, 5, 7, test, test, 1, 2, 3, 4. A? Jedan, dva, jedan, dva. Evo ga. 4, 5. Sad se čujemo. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Jedan. Jedan, dva. Jedan, dva, tri. Ja čujem sebe. Ubi taj mikrofon. Šta je taj mikrofon ubi? Koji? Si ga smanjio? Ne, mikrofon. Pa držiš u ruci, smanji ga tamo. Da, smanji. To ja kad pričam, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Šta treba da bude, speaker treba da bude ovo, tako? Tako. I mikrofon je isto to dobro. Onda izlazi, to bi trebalo, 1, 2. Aha, čekaj. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, test. To je to. Četvrk je bilo podignuto, da? Da, da. 1, 2, test. Šta ćemo da uradimo ovdje? Da stop. Ubijemo čekaj ovako sad. Kako ja da... Sad nam treba ovdje slika tog filma. Čujem, kao škipanje gumu. Jel ovo? Da. Da, jako je neprijatno ovaj uvijek. Sad ne znam da ću to tako da radim. Šta ću ostaviti? Ne. Mogu da kod. Šta hoćeš? Ništa. Jel tamo imaš sliku? Gdje? Hoćemo tamo imati sliku, to je sve tamo ne. Jedan, dva, test.
digitalizacija.
So the presentation of our next guest. We will have Ilya Knežević talking about the digitization and innovative approaches to acquiring skills and knowledge. Mr. Knežević, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank the Foundation Tempus and the EPALE team for inviting us to participate in the conference, and to thank you for many years of cooperation. So it's been 2 years since we last saw each other in the conference, so I will briefly share with you what has happened in the last 2 years amidst the coronavirus infection and all that happened about it. So the market is very flexible. Some trades are created, some disappear, and we needed to change our approaches both with unemployed persons and employers through digitization. First, when we had the lockdown, we had to enable the unemployed persons to register with us online. This is not the same as registering online and leaving your personal data, like registering for each website. No, they had a form and they needed to complete it and to send it to the employment counselor, and they need to schedule an in-person conversation, an interview, because you will always learn more from an interview about this person's interests, whether they are ready to actively look for jobs, whether they need additional training or just the certification of the skills they have acquired. Then they want to reskill and find a job in another profession. Now there are no COVID restrictions, but we still have online registration, but we want to develop it to resemble your registration on a website, so they don't need to complete the form, but to have their data directly entered into the database. So we needed to digitize oral applications for example, the application for unemployment benefit. So you can complete the e-form and submit it by email. And there was no need to provide supporting evidence because our database and the database from the social care system are connected, so we could always calculate what the base for the benefit is and calculate it properly. We also made it possible for employers to issue work permits for foreign nationals, also to assess the work capability and employability or maintaining employment for persons with disabilities. Some of the things had to be done in person because there is a commission to determine the level of work capacity of this person, but everything else can be done online. And also we made it possible to apply for the active employment system measures, whether you want to employ somebody or to start your own business. Again, this is not online application, you need to actually fill in the Word form or Excel form and submit supporting evidence with by email. What we couldn't do is the employment fairs during the pandemic. These are very interesting for both employers and prospective employees. But last year with the GIZ, we organized the first virtual employment fair that covered the entire territory of Serbia. Having that in mind, we wanted to have fewer large companies rather than many small ones. And these few large companies have their subsidiaries, so they could participate with all their subsidiaries in the fair. We had 70 such companies, and we had over 7.5 thousand unemployed persons looking for a job that participated in the fair. But there was live interaction online, but in person, so the employer could have a video call with the prospective employees, and the prospective employees could use the chat box to ask questions either to the National Employment Service that administer it or directly. So in the first 6 months, the 70 companies and their subsidiaries employs over 2.5 thousand unemployed people. This year, the fair is back live because both job seekers and employers prefer in-person communication, but we will not abandon our virtual fair. And we have some ideas that we will develop the next year, because we don't want always to cover the entire country, but a locality or a region depending on the level of interest. What is perhaps something that intrigued the public most and what we have promoted in the past 3 years is the My First Salary program that was created in the year of the pandemic, when we saw the most closures of businesses and lockdown. In 2020, due to the lack of appropriate staff sought by employers, and also the lack of possibility for young people to start their internship, at the proposal of the government of Serbia, a working group was established that designed this My First Salary program. This is the program that is about internship that may or may not be related to the qualification that the person acquired through the formal education system. So, having in mind the COVID pandemic, we wanted to develop an intended purpose portal so that everything can function electronically to the advertised vacancies, applying and signing the contract electronically. You always have issues in the first year of implementations, and they said, I will bring you the papers you registered me, but we managed to deal with all of them. And so the figures tell you that we were pretty successful. So we had over 8,000 people in the first year that found internship with slightly over 5,000 employers, but now we have almost 6,000 employers that connected with over 9,500 candidates, but sometimes either side may give up. So we suppose that we will many more of candidates and employers, but we believe that there will be 9,500 contracts signed. This portal connects different codes, activity codes, business activity codes, and profession codes. So you could not have a free text. You needed to actually select a trade or profession. Then the qualifications were also preset, so the employers needed to choose a level of qualification for the vacancy. They couldn't enter free text. Then there was the codes for municipalities, which is the place of work code. And then there was a chance to have free text for job description, the manner of implementing the internship, and the name of the mentor for this person. This was to be filled in by employers. Young people actually could develop their CV through several steps: personal data, education, background, any particular skills and knowledge, or any work experience. What is also important that we use the codes both for education, municipalities, and special codes for computer skills, language skill, foreign language skills, etc. So this was a good pilot, to say. It was actually maybe not to test, but a good way of generating a CV by young people, and then how to write the motivational letter. You would have a window that was not mandatory, but young people mostly actually use it to write their motivational letter to show what they want to have an internship with that particular employer in that job position and similar. Since this is a new program, the strengths were that we could see that after 6 months, 43% of interns got employed. After the second cycle, after 2 months, 30 young people got a job, interns. Of course, we see that the greater share of those employed are those with higher education, 50-60%. Those with secondary education that got the job have a 20 to 30% share.
Also, as e-government develops, the portal is expanded, so we are included there, both for the citizens and for the business community. As regards the citizens, it's about information. You can find some most important issues and some most important questions: how to register, how to exercise your right for the monetary benefits, and how to apply for a training, and all the links towards our website are supplied, so you get there more information and more forms. As for the business community, there is a part when you fill the vacancies, the employers can fill out these forms electronically, and then the data will be transferred to our database. This is something that we strive to achieve, namely to transfer the filled out forms into our database directly without any need for paperwork. And this is what our service is traditionally is doing. It's the training for the labor market. We are involved in these activities for years already. For the 3 years that to come, we will have training for the organizers of the educational activities. Unfortunately, in 20 and 21, we did not have any activities due to COVID-19 epidemic, but now we need to resume our activities after these 2 years of being passive. Last year we had online training in bookkeeping together with the GIZ. We had a contractor, it was the university in Niche. They implement many different trainings, not in this field, but many nevertheless. 300 persons from all over Serbia participated, and this training was combined in character. Namely, the instructor had conducted this training live, and there was an assistant who answered the questions through chat, and whoever was not present at the Zoom could listen to the recording of the training, and those who did participate the Zoom presentation could listen to that again. So the response was really good. This online training was implemented, and the feedback that we have received were wonderful. As for the results, most trainees got a job in this field or in other fields. So this was our first project, and I can say that it was a success. The next 2 trainings are implemented by our employees in the National Employment Service. They work face-to-face with job searchers. The training for the active job search and the training for entrepreneurs. The trainings can be participated in person or online. For active job search, training duration is 1 day, and the trainees are shown in detail how to write a CV, a motivational letter, how to present themselves to the employers, how to look for vacancies, and so on. What was redesigned in this training is because you know that now increasingly you see the vacancies published on the social media, so we used that, teaching the trainees how to answer the employer's questions, how to behave on the interview with the employer. So we had this training to that effect. It was really interactive. It was not only just starting the training and finishing it. You always have a test to write your CV, to write your motivational letter. So there is always some interaction, so nobody would fall asleep in the training, but they would need to do something. And as regards the training, the road to a successful entrepreneur, it is a 2-day training, and it takes 7 days for trainees to listen to all the modules and pass the exam. And the persons who finish this training can ask for the self-employment funds. So here as well you have the tests, the task, the business plan to be done, and then it's evaluated, and based on that a trainee will get a certificate of training completion. In this year we conducted the training for the labor market based on the training catalog, and training catalog is made based on the research of the needs of the labor market, about the needs of the employers at local labor market, what are the aptitudes, what are the interests expressed by the job searchers. And as Vesna mentioned, we simply do not publicly recognized education organizers do not cover the entire territory of Serbia. They are present only in larger towns, so we simply cannot meet all the needs of all the employers in all parts of the country. What we try to do this year, besides the training for the publicly recognized organizers, are 2 online trainings, the digital marketing and the keeping of business books. The first is conducted by Čačak organization, and the second one by Belgrade organization. All these lectures are given online through Zoom, but all these lectures can be recorded and listened after the actual training. And also we had an audio-visual presentation and consultations with the lecturers, and the announcements. Namely, after every lesson you have a test so as to successfully pass the exam for a module, and then continue with other modules until you finally get a certificate. We did not plan the number of people that would be involved. We have procured this training to be conducted in a year, so we will try to include as many people as possible in these trainings. So as the organization, we are following the social media. So we have a profile in LinkedIn for a year already, and in Instagram we are present for 2 months already. We have thousands of followers, and we promoting active employment measures on these pages, and everything of interest for the job seekers and for the employers. So that is as much as I wanted to tell you. Thank you.
Our next guests come from Iceland, and they will present to us the WATCH training program that they have already presented to the adult education system. We will have Anna Sigurðsdóttir, Björgjonna Birgisdóttir, and Sigridur Hulda Jónsdóttir, who will actually talk to us by video call. testing.
Hello everyone, is it time to start?
Hello, we can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I just would like to say hello to everyone. And we are very thankful for being with you today. We would, of course, have liked to be in Serbia with you, but we are instead here in Iceland. And it's ice cold here at the moment. The snow came last Friday, and we have really beautiful winter weather at the moment. But we have half an hour today to talk to you about the WATS program, and there are 3 of us here. My name is Björk, and then there is Anna and Sigríður Hulda. And I'm going to start with the presentation, and then Anna is taking over, and Sigríður, she will speak in the end. So I hope that everyone can hear us well, and we will start now. First of all, I would like to mention that we are talking today about the WATS program. And here I'm showing you the WATS handbook that was published in Serbia last spring. And me, Anna, and Sigríður, we came to your country for a workshop, 2 days workshop that we really enjoyed, and enjoyed the beautiful city. And it was so wonderful to actually come to your country. And this WATS program is a support system. It's called in English WATS, What Alternatives, Thinking, Coping, Hoping. And it's a holistic support system. And it is here in the Serbian language, and maybe some of you that are in the audience today were with us at the workshop last spring. If so, you will get a quick review of what we did at the workshop, because this is going to be a short introduction here today. The WATS handbook is designed to assist facilitator in implementing and supervising groups of individuals that are at transition points in their lives. And the main focus is to provide individuals with a support system and assisting them in developing positive self-attitude and fulfilling their educational and career goals. And what the facilitator does is forming a group of individuals in need of support. So this book is about how you can implement a program like that, and many details about it. And it provides 14 sessions and a follow-up session later. And we will describe that a little bit later here today. And for whom is WATS? It's for those, as I said before, for those who are at turning points in their lives. And it can be different reasons. It can be shift of career. It can be someone that wants to start his education or her education. Some individuals are facing changes in life. They also can have something to do with your health and age and interests and your work life, changes that happen in your work life, development or unemployment. Also, it can be for dropouts or those who are at risk of dropping out of school, and also burnout for those who have gone through that. And when we run groups, there are many theories behind theories about group counseling and group work and what happens in groups. And we are going today to tell you a little bit about therapeutic factors and also the stages that the groups go through. And Anna will explain that to you a little bit later, but I would like to tell you about therapeutic factors. And therapeutic factors, they actually happen in all groups that meet few times. And like in the WATS programs, we suggest that the facilitator works with a group and meets them over and over again. And then the group develops, and also the therapeutic factors, they also develop in the group. First of all, I would like to tell you that the facilitator, when he starts to work with a group, it's very different. It's very important to focus on matters such as role modeling for others, and to involve all individuals into the group. And that has to be the focus of the facilitator all the time, and during the group. And you can see the first factor on this slide is installation and maintenance of hope. And I'm not sure if you recognize this book or have this book, but I just want to let you know that all these 14 sessions that I mentioned before are described in the book. And for example, here you can see page 48. Here is mentioned one of the therapeutic factors. At the beginning of each session, a therapeutic factor is mentioned. And the first factor that is mentioned is installation and maintenance of hope. And because that factor develops at early stages in the group. And it is so important that all the participants in group, they have positive expectations of what they are going to do. And by using offering them something like participating in a group, explaining it in a positive way, the hope will rise. And then they hope that they will go get something out of this group, and that is going to be one of the main sources for them to actually want to stay there. So that's something that is really important for facilitators to think about at the beginning. And I just want to tell you that Anna and Sigríður, we have worked together for about 25 years developing the WATS program and running groups as well. And for us, it is really valuable to always remind us about these therapeutic factors. And the next one that I want to explain to you is universality. And these words, these therapeutic factors that I'm talking about today, have been developed by Yalom. And there are many books about group work that he has written, and you can find him in the WATS book. And universality is a word that we are not so familiar with in English, but it is that the individual feels unique and also a relief that there are other individuals that are facing similar problems or similar problems as they themselves. And that's very good feeling when individuals sense that. So this happens within the individual. And of course, we cannot see all the factors happening in the group. But for us who want to be facilitators, it's really important to actually be aware of it. And so sometimes we see that they say, oh, I'm glad to hear that you are also facing the same things as I am. And then they can learn from each other by that. So universality is a very important factor. As I mentioned before, in the book, at the beginning of each session, one factor, therapeutic factor, is described. That does not mean that the facilitator is supposed to be focusing on that particular factor in that session. It's just something to educate us little by little through the whole system that we are focusing on this particular, or on all these factors as we run the groups. And didactic instructions is one of the factors, that is to transfer information to the group, and that's important for facilitator not to focus on talking, giving too much information, because we have to more to try to involve the participants. We have also direct advice, that is another one, and direct advice is something that we as facilitators do not do, but we can recommend it to others to give advice in the group. If someone is facing some kind of problem, we can ask, is there anyone else in the group that can assist them? Altruism is the next one. And that is some sense that the individuals feel that they are needed and useful. And that is, for example, when they give other advice or something, they can feel that they are useful, and that can be very positive feeling. Cohesiveness is also like an inner sense feeling that they are being valued and accepted in the group. So when they feel that they are accepted, that's really important, and therefore it's important for the facilitator to actually show everyone respect and give everyone opportunity to talk. Imitative behavior is also something that the facilitator needs to think about. It is the modeling certain behaviors. We have more therapeutic skills like interpersonal skills, social skills, the group process and conclusion. And actually you can read about that in the book. It's not time today to go over all the factors. So hopefully you can have the opportunity to read about it a little bit later. And now I'm going to give over to Anna, and she's going to talk to you now for a few minutes. Thank you.
Hi, nice to see you all, and I'm happy to be here as well as my two colleagues talking about the WATS program, and hopefully it will be of benefit to you to use group counseling with your situations. I know that you are mostly with adult people, but also we have been using the WATS program with children down to 9 years old up to those who are between 60 and 70. And what we emphasize is that this is a group system, a support system, and when you're taking part in a support system, you both have an opportunity to receive support and also to learn how to help others, because the dynamic of the group is the main learning emphasis. That we emphasize that when you sit in a room with other people, and some of them are just there because they are of some kind of transfer point in their life, and they are there to receive help in moving forward. This can be of great benefit. It's like imitating or have a mirror on yourself. It's not just the mirror you have in talking to others, but it's also an inner mirror. By being in a group like this, you learn social skills, and this is very important because social skills can be the main thing that helps you move forward. by you having positive social skills, you are better able to apply for jobs or to learn new things or do something you really want to do. And also, taking part in a group can build healthy relationships amongst individuals. So when we were doing this program, the WATS program, we emphasized that this was mainly 4 things. It is a support system, as I've mentioned before, and its aim is to help the individual move forward, also to learn social skills and to build healthy relationships. But what we thought was unique for the WATS program is that this is 2 kinds of support. There is this peer support in a group, and there is a facilitator or a group leader that is also taking part in the group each time, but the group leader is not the main teacher or main person within the group. It's the dynamic between the individuals in the group that is of most important. But our unique thing is that while the group is running, each individual has the opportunity to talk to the facilitator or the group leader once, and twice. And in these sessions, where there is only 2 people, the individual has an opportunity to talk directly to the trained group leader or facilitator about his own problems or things he wants to talk about. So this is what we thought was unique. The WATS program offers 2 kinds of support, not only group counseling, but also individual interviews or talking. But what I also want to emphasize is that in a group, something happens. And never mind what kind of group, all groups have development stages. And the stages are these. At first, an individual comes into the group and enters what we call the initial stage. In this stage, the individual is kind of testing the atmosphere. He or she is deciding, do I want to be in this group or don't I? And that's why it's very important at this stage that the individual feels safe. This is what the facilitator has to keep in mind, because you have to have a room where you have no one interrupting. Also, you have to talk about the phones in the beginning, because a phone can interrupt massively. So you need to talk about to have your phones on silence at this stage. When the individual coming and has gone through this stage, he has decided, I'm going to stay here. And that's when he goes through this, what we call the transition stage. He has decided, I'm going to stay in this group, and I'm going to be involved. I'm going to talk and I'm going to listen. The facilitator has talked about to have some kind of rules in the group. And in the book, What's book, you can read more about this, what the role of the facilitator and what has to be said, so the group will work smoothly. And then they enter the working stage. And this working stage is where things happen. And usually those who go to a group like this are happy to be there, and they are willing to take part and be there full time. But everybody has to be aware that maybe when there is 1 or 2 sessions left, everybody is going through a mindset that we call the final stage. That's when people feel that they are a little bit afraid of leaving the group. This may end in sentences like, should we meet again? Are you willing to come and be with us? And they are talking to the group leader. But it's important that the group leader tell them that they are safe and they themselves can take over and be their own facilitator. I've been talking about the facilitator, and his role is forming the group. He has also to select the participants, and we have emphasized that it is important not to select a group of individuals that are all the same. The more diversity, the better. Because when you see things from different perspectives, you might learn something you have never realized before. Also, the group facilitator has to take care of all the time management within the session, and we have also emphasized that you begin on time and you end on time. And also, the group has to decide on some rules within the group, and as I said before, it's the most important about the phone and the interruptions, and also there needs to be a warm environment. And what is maybe most important is that the group members must decide on confidentiality. This is the ground for individuals to trust each other within the group. This makes trust, and if there are conflicts, the facilitator has to understand that he is the one to solve the conflicts, not by interrupting, but by taking good care of all the participants. I hope that everything will be fine with you and that you try this watch program, and hopefully they will be a big success for you as it was for us. And now Sigríður Hulda will take over. Thank you very much.
Hi, so I'm Sigríður, and I have the last slides. Very nice being with you. I just wanted to add that the three of us, as Björg mentioned, we have been working together on the Watch Handbook and other professional things for over 20 years. We are all educated in counseling, master's degree in different counseling areas, and we have been working in adult education and as well in the educational system. So I'm going to go into practical things about the Watch program. So I will start with this slide with an overview over the session. The Watch program has these 15 sessions, and each session is most often around 1 hour, and then you have a specified topic, as you can see here. Here you can see the 15 sessions and the topics that you can choose between. So all of the sessions have the same frame and we most often work with people of 6 till 8 learners in the group, and the group meets once a week for around 8 weeks. So you pick like 6 topics, and the first session is always the first session when you are introducing everything you are doing and so on, and the participants talking about trust and other things that Björg and Anna has mentioned here. And then you go into the session with different topics. Of course, you can run the group for 4 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever, but we recommend 6 till 8 weeks, meeting once a week. As well, it can differ. Maybe you want to meet the group twice a week, if you are working in adult education, for example. So you just figure out what is the best for the group you are working with. Each session is around 60 minutes, and each session has a new topic, and it's very important that everyone shows up in every session. So we talk about this to the participants in the beginning, and as well we take the responsibility to remind the participants to show up, to send them SMS or whatever, to call them if needed, and so on. And especially if we are working with people who are at any case at some kind of risk, could be risk of isolation, could be risk of being socially withdrawn, or something like this. It's very important that the counselor or the one who is in response for the group is working on different ways to make sure that everyone shows up. This is so important because, like Anna and Björg mentioned, we are building up the trust in the group. So if someone maybe shows up in the first session and then shows up in session 6, the trust can go back to the first session, because now you have a stranger in the group that has not been with you all the time. Of course, it can happen that people get sick or something like this and they miss out one session, but this is important thing. So as I have talked about, it's difficult to add a new member in the group when it has started running, because as we know, in all groups we build up the trust, and when a new person comes in, the trust goes back maybe to level 1. So this is an example of one session, and this is session 9. That has the topic My Strengths and Weaknesses, and here you can see the agenda. And when we did write the WATS handbook, we assumed that we were writing it for professionals that were quite busy before they started to run this program. So we wanted the WATS program to be practical and everything in it, so you don't have to prepare too much for the sessions. So we have agenda for each session, and the agenda is always with the same structure. You start with discussing goals from the last session. We end every session that participants set themselves some work on goals that they want to work on, and we start the next session with discussion about the goals. And then we have the topic, and it can be the one who is running the group, that is the one who is talking about the topic and the introduction of the topic, but it can as well be a guest speaker. If we are running the group maybe 8 times, you can maybe 2 times have a guest speaker that is a specialist on the topic that is a topic of the session to that day. And what we recommend, I'm not sure how you work, but it can be very good if maybe 2 or 3 professionals decide to start running the WATS program at the same time or at similar time in their work, and they help each other out, both with preparing and as well maybe they can be guest speakers in each other groups. So that can be a lot of support for you when you start to run the WATS program, to do it connected to someone else, and you can be working together. And then I go to number 3 on the slide. In each session, you have assignments, and the assignments are in your book. And for this session, there are 2 assignments, and you can use them both, or you can use one of them, depends on the time and what you think is important for the group. But you have assignments in each and every session that you can use, and you can copy them from the book and have them for the participants. And after the assignment, there is a group discussion. And since every session is around 60 minutes, it's very important to have time enough for the group discussion, because that is where things happen, if you can say so, because then everyone is active in the group, and it's important that the one who is running the group, the counselor or the facilitator, is not taking a big space in the group discussion. He should be just trying to put everyone into the discussion, and if there comes a question, for example, from one of the group members about I have this challenges, what can I do about this? I do not see there is any way in this. Then it could be a good thing to say, is anyone in the group relating to this? Is anyone in the group that has ever felt like this, that this person is explaining? So in group, the facilitator or the counselor should not be the one who is always giving the answers. So that's the dynamic of the group. And then we end the group, as mentioned before, to set the goals for next week. So this is an example of the agenda, and all the sessions have the same agenda with different topics. And this is the philosophy of the WATS program, that it's based on the fact that if at least one person in your life where you are maybe at some turning point is showing up and caring and showing you some positive interest, it can make the whole difference. So we as well have some sayings in the handbook that you can use as you want when you are using the handbook. So this is it from us today, but we surely hope that you will benefit from this and that you can use this. It's quite practical, and it has been used a lot in many countries, and maybe one day we will visit you and give you more details about this and the seminar. We would love to do that. And I'm not sure if we have questions, but you see we are here all again. And we just say thank you so much and happy holidays, and we hope you really have a good time coming up. And we are happy to work more with you and stay in contact with you. Thank you.
Now we will have the lunch break up to 2 p.m. I would like to kindly ask you, since this is an accredited conference, please leave your personal details at the registration desk. Some of you did not put the job code. Please, if you haven't yet, do it now during the break. Thank you.